What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel. Check out the content. And I want to start a conversation which I think is interesting, and I know that a lot of people will want to debate this, and that is if Michael Jordan had not retired from basketball those 2 years to go play baseball, I think that Michael Jordan, in my opinion, would have had 8 championship rings. And I know that, I've heard interviews from like Kenny Smith, interviews from Sam Cassell, and both of those guys, they played for the Houston Rockets during those years when the Houston Rockets won those 2 championships while Mike was gone. And both of them said that they think they would have beat the Chicago Bulls, right? And so I definitely want to push back on that because you talking about Mike when he was in his prime, right? Those 2 years, like when Mike came back for the second three-peat, I think the first year he was in his prime, but those championship number 5 and number 6, I think that really took a lot out of Mike. Like his game, not it didn't take a lot out of him, but his game was different. But when you talking about like you talking about somebody who would have had like championship number 4 and number 5 in a row with the if they had gone against Houston those years, I think Mike would have been able to pull that off. I just Mike just was that dude, right? And so when I even came across this video, let me see if I get it bigger or that's get it smaller. I even came across this video of Mike going against the Houston Rockets. Now, don't get me wrong, during the regular season, the Houston Rockets, they had some success against Mike, but I just think this matchup right here would have pushed Mike to this just would have put Mike in just a whole nother a level, right? In the championships, nobody has, I think Mike never went 7 games. I think Houston might have been able to push Mike to 7 games, but that's as far as I think it would have went with the Houston Rockets. They would have been able to push Mike to 7 games. But other than that, man, it just was matter of fact, I'm gonna start this video over from the beginning so I can kind of like narrate it as we go along. But if you look at this, right? So all right, this is Hakeem blocking Mike's shot, right? In the corner. Mike shot, and then Hakeem slammed the ball. And that right there, Mike took that personally, right? Now, after that, Mike come back. And he just giving Hakeem, he gonna give Hakeem all the work. You look at Mike he went to the gym, started training, and he was on a mission, right? Look at Mike carried it right to Hakeem. Boom. What he put that body on, what nothing Hakeem could do. And he was going in the paint with Hakeem. Look at Hakeem is right there on him. Anybody else, nobody else goes in the paint like that against Hakeem Olajuwon. And Mike was doing it. Mike did it. Now, on the other end, look at that. Mike blocked the shot right there. Now, on the other end, they didn't have anybody who could match up with Hakeem Olajuwon, right? And like, who did? Nobody, you know what I mean? Like, no, like when Hakeem, those years when Hakeem Olajuwon was dominating, he was just a matchup problem for everybody. He was like, but Mike was just that dude, man. Let me look at these plays again. This is right here, is just what sparked me to come back to this argument that when you watch Mike operate in the paint, his athleticism, Hakeem blocked the shot. Mike ain't go for that. Mike ain't go. Mike got to the gym, and he just elevated his game against every challenge. Every challenge. Look at him right there. And he going inside. Everybody down there. And he finishing on Hakeem Olajuwon in the paint. At Mike 6'6". Hakeem Olajuwon 7 feet tall. And that's just what Mike was, man. I'm telling you. I would have loved to have seen this. This right here would have been like Ali Frazier, man. This would have been big. I think the Houston Rockets, in my opinion, because they were also an excellent defensive team. I think the Houston Rockets would have been able to push Chicago Bulls to maybe a 6 or a 7, but I still think that Chicago would have came out on top. Both of those years. Both of those years, man. If Mike had not let me stop this. If Mike didn't retire and go to play baseball, I just think that those years that Hakeem Olajuwon won it, I think that those rings will belong to Mike. So Mike will be sitting on 8 rings right now, and that would be even more crazy, that Mike have 8 rings. But Mike just, he just raised his level. Like Hakeem Olajuwon slammed the ball down, and that right there just gave Mike extra motivation and more added more determination to him. And I didn't play the audio, but Hakeem Olajuwon said that Mike was like, on that video right there, he just said that ain't no comparison between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. It's just no comparison. Mike was the greatest basketball player he ever seen. Right. And if you look at those plays, how Mike was scoring in the paint against, you got 4 defenders down there, then you finishing on Hakeem Olajuwon. That's unheard of. So it's not like Mike was operating later in Mike years. He used to operate on the wings or operate from like within like 15 feet of the rim, right? When he didn't have that spring. But those years right there that Mike went and played baseball, those was Mike prime years. So if he was in the league those years, I don't have Houston beating them. Although Houston beat them a couple times. They beat them a couple times during the regular season, right? But for all the marbles, you got Scottie Pippen. And then on top of that, Sam Casella's a great guard. You have who else? They had Kenny Smith was a great guard. You had Mario Ellie was there. Max, I think Cedric, his name not Mad Max. I forgot Mad Max name. Vernon Maxwell, yeah. Mad Max was there. They had some defensively, they was a tough team. But Chicago, like where else was Houston going to get their points from? Like what Hakeem Olajuwon would have had to do. And the thing about it is the Chicago Bulls had a rule of never double teaming, right? And as soon as that ball go down in the paint, then you seen Mike block Hakeem Olajuwon shot from behind. You'd have had Scottie Pippen collapsing, so Mike collapsing. Oh man, I just wish that we had got to see that. I think that matchup right there is one we missed out on in history. I wish that like that whole, I don't know why Mike retired. Some people say for this reason or for that reason. But Mike kept a lot of people from getting rings. And I think that Hakeem Olajuwon would have just been somebody else that he just kept from getting rings. It would have been Hakeem Olajuwon. And everybody on that team. Kenny Smith wouldn't have no rings. Sam Cassell went and got rings somewhere else. Who Sam Cassell went and got rings with? He got rings with Houston. I know he got in Boston. Was it somewhere else? I think Sam Cassell got 4 rings, right? So he probably still would have got rings, but he got his other rings he got like when Mike left the league. But while Mike was playing, no, you wasn't getting no. I don't think they would have those 2 rings, to be honest with you, man. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go do some research because I want to see exactly how much regular season success the Houston Rockets had. I think they only beat them like a couple times, 2 or 3 times during the regular season because they didn't really get to play each other a lot. You got one team from the East, one from the West, and it's not like when they saw Chicago, they dominated and they swept them. That wasn't the case. Mike wasn't going for that. I just think that, man, we missed the opportunity to see 2 of the greatest. Mike would have kept Hakeem Olajuwon, like I said. Mike would have kept him from getting those rings, man. And when you think about the players that Mike kept from getting rings, Charles Barkley, who else? Oh, Clyde Drexler too was on that team too when they won those rings. So you'd have had he kept Charles from getting rings. Um, Patrick Ewing, what was the guy name? What was the Seattle? Gary Payton. Mike kept a lot of Karl Malone and John Stockton. Mike kept a lot of really great basketball players from getting rings, and I think that Hakeem Olajuwon just would have been somebody else to add to that list, man. Mike just was so dominant. He was so dominant, man. So that's my take on it, man. Let me know if you agree or if you disagree. And if you disagree, let me know why. You know what I mean? Like, how do you think that Hakeem Olajuwon Hakeem would have probably had to score like 50 something points a game to, because Houston wasn't. I don't see nobody else on Houston being able to go off like that. Because remember, although Hakeem Olajuwon was, they just was like the New York Knicks of the West. Remember, that New York Knicks teams that Mike used to go through before they even got to the championship was built the same way the Houston Rockets. Patrick Ewing was their centerpiece. Then you had a whole bunch of defenders around him. You had Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley. You had Greg Anthony, Charles Smith. What's the guy that dunked on Mike with his left hand? Dang, I forgot his name. But man, that New York Knicks team, man. Then you had Harper, Derek Harper. That New York Knicks team used to give Mike and them the run for their money. That was a tough team, right? That New York Knicks team. And a lot of times people felt like that was the championship, like Chicago, New York, that was the championship matchup. And then when they got to the championship, the teams in the West just, they didn't have anybody for Mike, right? And so I would have liked to have seen that, man. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like, subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment, and I will check you all out in the next video. Peace.